Hello and thank you for watching. We are on video 4 of the So You Want to Be an Entrepreneur video series. This is a series for aspiring entrepreneurs and business owners who are looking for encouragement, some advice, and practical tips for taking their ideas to the next level. If you've been watching the series, thank you so much. I appreciate you not only watching, but also sharing it. If you have not shared it, I hope that you will. If you have not been watching, please stop. I encourage you to stop and check out videos 1 through 3 and then come back to video 4 because some of the things that I'll be talking about will make a little bit more sense if you've watched the other videos. I'm going to get right into it. Video 4 is about mitigating risk. So lessening the risk that's associated with entrepreneurship. Let me preface everything by saying that if you are a risk-averse person, meaning you don't like risks, it makes you uncomfortable, then you have two options. Either you are going to reconsider whether or not you want to be an entrepreneur, or you're going to figure out ways to get around that fear because simply put, there's really no way to get around the risk that's associated with entrepreneurship. I tell my colleagues and my friends all the time that if you want to live a safe, comfortable life, entrepreneurship is not for you. There are so many unexpected and unplanned things that happen in the process and in the journey that it's in your best interest to get comfortable with the fact that risk happens. Sometimes the results will be unfavorable, and that's just part of the process and part of the journey. But again, I'm going to share 4 tips that I think will be especially helpful for anybody who is either starting this journey or who is on this journey and still finds themselves a little bit fearful of the what ifs. Tip number 1 is to document expectations. Okay, what do I mean by that? I mean to write down everything. Again, in these videos, I like to state what looks like the obvious, but it's not the obvious because people don't do it all the time. If you're a service-based business, you want to spend time drafting contracts, okay? Contracts put in writing what you're bringing to the table, what your expectations of your clients are, what the end results will be, and what safety measures are in place should things not go the way that you planned. If you're a product-based business, you'll notice that stores, which are product-based businesses, have receipts for a reason. And it's because it allows you to cover policies like a refund policy. The problem with entrepreneurship when you're starting out is there's so much that you're learning that we kind of just leave it as is, and we just expect that people know what we're bringing to the table and what they can expect in return. You don't want to do that. You don't want to leave any room for assumption. You don't want to leave any room for someone to come back and say that you promised or said that you would do something that you did not do. And the way that you eliminate that is to document, put in writing what the expectations are. It protects you, it protects your clients. Another way that you want to document expectation is when it comes to hiring, partnership contracts. Tip number 2 is to be cash conscious. Now, a lot of the risk that you will take as an entrepreneur will be financial in nature. Unless you're getting an investor, and that's their money that's being invested into the company, or you're getting a loan, the bank's money that's being invested in the company, you will have to invest some of your own personal money. And so you want to treat your business budget the same way you would your personal budget. Cash flow is everything in business, okay? And the truth be told is that work can be seasonal. I've noticed, for example, in our industry, the winter months are especially hard. Nonprofits and companies have exhausted their budget, and so naturally, when a company exhausts their budget, one of the first few people that go is the consultant. And so because we're in the consulting industry, we've noticed that colder months, winter months later on in the year are especially harsh. Now, this is going to be true whether you're in a service-based industry or product-based industry. Because the work can be seasonal, you want to do 2 things. One, you want to create a contingency plan. Okay, the cash flow is low. What can you cut from your operating budget? What can you cut from your expenses to make up for the fact that your revenue or your income is lower than it is at other times of the year? The second thing you want to do is try to get reserves for 3 to 6 months of operating costs. So similar to how a personal financial advisor would advise you to make sure that you have your living expenses in your savings account. You want to make sure that you have in your reserves 3 to 6 months of operating costs. So that's tip number 2, is to be cash conscious. Tip number 3, now this is early on, is to create the proper structure. I know a lot of entrepreneurs, they just go kind of head first into this process. And they assume the role, and they take on the structure of a sole proprietor. Now, in most cases, a sole proprietorship is the easiest structure to set up. However, a sole proprietorship does not protect your personal assets. Okay, so one of the things that you want to do is to learn the difference between the different structures. Fourth and final tip that I have is to create an out. There are 2 ways that you create an out for yourself. Now, at this point, realize that you may have lost money. You definitely would have lost some of your time. You may have lost some resources. But how can you, to the best of your ability, keep as much as you can? One way to do that is dissolution. So you want to figure out what your dissolution policy will be, and you want to include a dissolution clause in your organizing documents. Most jurisdictions will require that you have a dissolution clause. So what will happen to the assets? What will happen to the organization as a whole? What will happen to the money, to the resources, to the equipment? But you want to ensure that you know that, and everybody else that is in management or in leadership for your organization or your company is also aware of what the dissolution policy is. And then the second thing is create an out when it comes to services. So usually this is referred to as an indemnification. So an indemnification clause covers how loss or damages will be handled in the future. And now this is usually through a contractual agreement. You want to make sure that there's an indemnification clause that covers you in the event of loss or damage. And this is, again, case-by-case scenario, but each contract you want to make sure there's a clause in there that indemnifies you or covers you in the event of loss or damage. There's several other things that you can do to mitigate risk as a business owner. Mitigating risk as an entrepreneur does not mean that you won't have to take risks. In fact, I believe that the most successful entrepreneurs are the ones who do not shy away from risk. They take on the challenges head on. The most obvious way, of course, to lessen the impact of whatever you do and to kind of cover yourself is to get insurance. So in addition to these 4 tips, I will add a bonus, which is to make sure that you have an insurance. So not just a standard business insurance, but just to make sure that you have one that's industry specific or work specific. So if you're taking on a client that will require you to be on site, and some of your workers are providing construction work, for example, you want to make sure that it's specific to that contract and not just an overall business insurance policy. I hope this was helpful. Again, there's just no way around this. I have not found, in my experience or in any of the books that I've read or any of the people that I've talked to, that there's a surefire way to lessen your risk as an entrepreneur. It's kind of one of those things that, you know, it is what it is. The risk is part of the job, but be encouraged that no matter what the risk looks like, it will pay off. Make calculated risks as best as possible and to the best of your ability, but be encouraged that if you are taking risks, you will see results. As always, you can connect with me on social media at Andrena_Sawyer, or you can connect with P.E.R.K at P.E.R.K_consulting. Again, we're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, LinkedIn. You can also check out our website for additional resources, and of course you can contact us via email. If you find this video helpful, please share with other entrepreneurs or share with other people who are considering. It's a big step when you decide you're going to quit your 9-to-5 job. You're leaving a safety net. You're leaving a safety net and a security blanket to an extent that brings a paycheck every 2 weeks or twice a month. You're leaving benefits. You're leaving a lot of things that allow you to create that cushion. So my goal again is to make sure I get out as much information as I can. Please do connect, and until next time.